Hey guys, this is Daniel with PwnCNC, and I'm here to install my brand new product, the Shapeoko covers. These are the stepper covers for the Y. These are on either side. They will come with brushes. I've already got them cut here, but you'll receive a big length of it, you know, like a 6 foot or 6 inch length, and you'll need to cut those down to size. You'll have a right and a left. You'll notice the right has some heat inserts in it. The left has a cutout for the cable chain on the left side. But you'll have a couple of covers. You'll have 4 of these M5 by 30 millimeter socket head screws. Depending on your setup, you will have the original. These are a couple of additional cover for folks with the original mechanical switches. I'm going to show you a nice little way that'll mount these. We'll use these covers for that, and these covers will come with a couple of M3 by 10 millimeter screws. If you've got my PwnCNC proximity switches, I've got a different bracket for you. And that's what this will be. That will basically mount the proximity switch right here on the face. It will sit right here and mount on there and trigger the switch whenever it gets close to the end plate. If you've got the newest, the Carbide 3D proximity switches, they will actually mount without an adapter right onto the covers themselves. So it'd be a nice clean look. So let's start with that. One last thing. You'll also have 2 acrylic pieces. I've already got the paper pulled off from one of them. This one literally came off the assembly line. This is for the left side. The square, perfectly square one with no notches is for the right side. So the right side, of course, the heat inserts. The left side with the notch, and you'll find that this notch lines up with this notch here. So, and looks like I need to go back to the drawing board and cut my acrylic again. Oops. So I'm going to go ahead and install it anyways, because the smallest Shapeoko here does not require the notch, but the notch is available on the smallest. But your machine will actually have a larger cutout. I'm pretty disappointed in that, actually. So let's pull my carriage forward a little. And the first thing to do, of course, is your brushes. So you're going to have a good 6 inch length of brush here. You're going to slide that brush right into position and take a box cutter or something like that and just kind of make sure you push it in as far as it can go. It should come overlap this edge just by a millimeter or 2, but you're going to notch it with a box cutter or something. Notch it right there on the edge, and you're going to pull it out, snip it off. Then you're going to take the small, I believe this is about 24 millimeters or something like that. Just slide that right back on there. And repeat the process for the back side. So now we have our brushes on the back and the front of the cover. You're going to take the acrylic, pull off the paper. I've already done so with this piece. And there's a notch in towards the front and a notch towards the back. Just kind of slide it in. It is a perfect fit. So you'll need to slide it in slowly and make sure it's all the way in on both sides. It should sit flush right here, because the acrylic itself is actually going to sit right up against the plate, as well as the edge of the boot or of the cover here. So push that in all the way. There's a little bit of an overhang right here on the inside, so that'll help with any dust on the inside. And of course, a nice little beveled or chamfered edge right here on the edge, so it'll give you a nice feeling cover. So take that, a couple of M5 screws, and a 4 millimeter hex driver. And before we get started, because it is a lot easier to do this with it out, or at least on camera, it is a lot easier to do this without putting the cover on. But I'm going to go ahead and put this on. This is the Carbide 3D's proximity switch. It triggers from the face, or from the front here. Looks like my heater is kicking in to keep me warm. So let me stop that. That is actually a huge reason why I focus so much on the air compressor, trying to get that quiet, because I want to be able to do filming. So your switch will have a couple of M3 screws already installed. These are longer than 10 millimeters, and this way it gets all the way through. They basically perfectly line up with the two heat inserts right here. Just kind of screw that into place. Believe this is with a, is it a 3 millimeter? Nope, 2.5 millimeter hex driver. So just kind of screw that into place. This only happens on the right side. And you can go ahead and line it up perfectly right with the edge of the cover. That is perfectly fine. It should be pretty even on both sides. Yeah. The wire is going to basically come right up over the top and right over the top and right into the entry point, or the little cutout here on the side. So you'll notice on the cover itself, it will come with an M3 screw already screwed in. That is to help with the layering. So there's this little notch right here which helps with the front. Whenever possible, I like to do a mechanical connection. And what I'm doing here is a mechanical connection versus a magnetic or some other type of glue or something like that. I prefer a mechanical connection because it is the most durable. So what I've done here is, whenever the print is done, I install this M3 screw myself because it provides a lot of stability to the layers right here. It kind of compacts these layers together, kind of holds this notch here and gives it some strength because of the way, and you'll notice here in a minute why, because of the way it mounts onto the machine. One little catch here, because of the way this prints, you may need to take a small little file and file that down just a tad. This is a really tight connection here on purpose, and the plate may be variable by fractions of a millimeter, of course, but it is noticeable whenever you go to put in something like a 3D printed thing, which has a little bit of swelling depending on the heat level and that sort of thing. So take a little file, kind of file that off on the inside and the out, and on both edges here, so that it fits in. And you can check that just by pushing it into the plate here. It should push in pretty smoothly, but that's the first step. So you're going to push that in smoothly once you've got that filed down, of course. Then you're going to take an M5 screw, and it's going to come right in here, right in the side here, right into the plate screws. So pull this forward a little bit further. And I'm just going to get started. I'm not going to tighten it down yet. I'm going to take the second screw, plug it in, make sure it's in a good position. And once I've got both of them kind of a little bit, just a tiny bit snug, I will be able to adjust the front and kind of adjust the tilt of the whole cover. And the point of that is it pushes the brushes down into the belt, and kind of gives a nice good angle to the brushes, which is perfectly fine. So we're going to tighten it down right there. And there we go. So it's done. The cover is already installed. It's ready. It should not move very much. There's a little bit of play there, but that's perfectly acceptable. The key is the long edge here runs right along the extrusion and gives a nice edge for prevent any material getting in that way. Of course, the brush will help sweep away any of that that mounts right here on the front side. All right, here we are on the left side of the machine. I'll pull the machine forward here in just a minute. But we have the left cover, and of course, just like the left cover, you're going to have, going to need to do that special trick with the 6 inches of brush material. Just kind of put it into the track, notch it, pull it out, slice it, and then you've got a small little piece here which you can insert into the track, and that will help you, protect your belts. I mean, this is the second most important feature of the whole cover, which of course the cover itself is the main feature, which keeps regular dust from falling onto your belts. The brushes help brush any dust that happens to get on there. So repeat the process for the front. And again, you'll notice the M3 by 10 millimeter screw there already screwed in, which helps with the layering strength of those layers. It looks like I have not adjusted this particular one. So I will take my file, do the top and the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my machine forward a little, and I'm going to just kind of sit it in there just to make sure it goes in properly. Just kind of clean up the fuzz marks there, just so it looks nice. There. Doesn't take much to clean that up. Just be cautious. Just go slowly. Make sure you clean that up nicely. Check it every once in a while so you don't take off too much. You don't want it wiggling around up there in the front. You want a little bit of tension, which is why I ship it the way I do, and have you file it when you receive it on your side. So I want that nice connection, right? So your left cover will come with a left acrylic, which has a notch in it. Now your notch will be a little bigger than mine, mainly because I need to go back and recut these. I actually messed up and cut a prototype version. Your version of the acrylic will have a larger cut out of it, just so that it lines up with the cover itself. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the acrylic paper off. And when you do this, just a quick little tip, just try not to touch the clear part. The clear part is what you're actually going to be seeing through, so just try to do it only by the edges if you can. That way you don't have to go and clean it. The other one's kind of greasy because I've been touching it quite a bit whenever I was doing my tests and such. But just kind of slide it in there. Make sure the notch here on the, so if you got the face of the cover on the left side, make sure the notch is on the right side. It should line up perfectly with the notch in the boot itself. And what's going to happen is there's a L bracket that mounts right here, and this notch basically perfectly lines up with the bottom of that bracket that mounts right onto these two posts here. So we're going to take our cover here. I'm going to move my wires because it's super easy. This is just the standard size, which means it doesn't have cable chains or anything like that, so I can get that out of the way. I'm going to take the couple of the M5 by 30 millimeter, I always forget the sizes of these things, 30 millimeter screws, drop them in. If you've got a little bit of threading there, you can take a small little pliers and just kind of pull those out. It doesn't affect anything. What's going to happen is I printed these face down like this so that we can have a nice textured surface on the outside, but it does mean that without supports, there's some threading that will happen pretty much every time right there in these openings. But that's fine, as the screw itself will press down into it and kind of compress any threading that happens to be in there. You just want your channels to be open. So I'm going to drop one in there and grab a, what is this, an M4 hex wrench. And if you've got a larger machine like an XXL or an XL, you're going to have a cable chain that kind of is in the way. So what you're going to want to do is just kind of move that out of the way if you can, and you're going to try to wiggle this into place. And just like the other side, you're going to push in the front side first and then allow the back side to just kind of naturally fall into place. And then you're going to take one of the screws, drop that through the hole, and thread it right into the plate. There's actually a threaded hole here. We're kind of taking advantage of that, the fact that it's there. Hopefully, carbide, please don't take that away. That is exceedingly helpful. And yeah, I'm going to put that into place. If you've got the smaller machines, there'll probably be a small little notch here. That isn't a big deal. Most of the dust and that sort of thing, these are the bigger pieces that kind of bounce up from here. So this shouldn't be a problem at all. But if you've got a cable chain or something like that, that should be a nice, close, tight fit all the way along the back of the opening of the cover and the notch there in the acrylic. And it's going to mount right up there against there. So again, just kind of tilt down the brush in the front. The brush in the back should have a nice little tilt just by simply tightening it in. And once you've tilted down the front, just kind of tighten it into place. And you're good to go. So now, we're going to take a look at, let's say you've got an older version, sort of like my XXL, which is a spring 2019 model. And for that, I'm going to have an actual L bracket here, this little bracket here. And of course, these are, 2019, let's jump back. Let's look at the mechanical switches first. So the mechanical switches are pretty much what came on models like prior to the summer of 2020, I believe is when they first came out with the proximity switches there in the fall. This is one of the first machines that came out with the proximity switches, the official carbide version with the actual carbide logo on there. Before that, they had mechanical switches. And these are these tiny little guys and a little plunger here that physically touches the end plate and triggers the switch. These are nice because it only requires 2 wires. The proximity switches actually require 3 because there is a power on there that's required. There's no power required. That's why they call them mechanical switches. But in your kit, you will have a fancy little, 3D printed cover piece here. It's got a little notch there and a little hole there. Basically, you take your mechanical switch and the post kind of fits right into the hole of the switch. The hole is where the little notch there plugs into. Again, if you've got a different type of switch, be sure to let me know, but I'm pretty sure these are the same for yours. So you should be perfectly fine there. The wires will basically run right along a little track there and come out the backside. The nice thing about this thing is it also protects the wiring connection there, so that's cool. Then you've got a cover, which has these same connections. It's got a post and a receiver, and whenever you plug them together, it should fit together perfectly and hold together nicely. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this as an assembly. Of course, the wire's sticking out right there in the back. We're going to take a couple of the M3 by 10 millimeter screws that comes in the kit, and we're going to plug that right in. And I believe this is a 2.5 millimeter hex driver. A couple of those M3 screws to secure the switch. And of course, there's several millimeters where you can go back or forth with the switch if you need to make any minute adjustments, just to make it perfectly suited for your machine. But yeah, it should line right up there with the back, just like the original stock proximity switches do. And there we go. Just tighten that down and you should be good. This is a super simple wire, just like the proximity switch, just runs up and over and into the plate. And you should be good. Whenever the cover comes back to the back, triggers the switch, and we're good to go. So let's uninstall this and take a look at the third option that's available. Now, I know for a fact there's only like 30 some odd people that have the third option. So if you have one of my switches, I'm going to try to cross-reference your order, but if not, be sure to mention in the comments of the order, whenever you go to order these covers, that you do have my proximity switch kit, and that'll be a load off for me. It'll be a lot easier for me to track that down for you. Make sure you get one of these L covers, which again, I've printed a small number of these, and just in case. So in your proximity kit, you will have a couple of these M3 by 10 millimeter button head screws, and that's what's used to secure the switch to whatever you're mounting it to. So in this proximity kit, I've got the L bracket piece here, and now let me move this out of the way. There we go. And then the proximity switch will basically mount right on there. Use those button head screws that come with the proximity kit and a 2 millimeter hex wrench. I'm going to tighten that down. Let me grab my other screw here. Tighten that down. I can actually get it into the heat insert. I think I kind of cross-threaded this particular one, so it's a little more difficult to install, but not impossible. So I've got my proximity switch, and the reason why we're doing this is the proximity switch triggers on the top of the switch versus the face of the switch. So I need my switches to kind of come up to the plate like this, and that's why I've built a whole new bracket for it. So just like all the others, switch is going to come over the top through that plate, and we're going to mount it right there, again, using M3 by 10 millimeters. It's going to screw right in there. Remember, use a 2.5 millimeter hex wrench. Screw that in. That should hold nicely. The holes that are on this track are adjustable, so just like all the other, just like the stock proximity switch and the mechanical switch cover, you can adjust this forward or backwards depending on where you want that switch to trigger. Gives you a little bit of play there, but again, you'd probably just line it up with the backside, the lower edge of the faceplate just before the brushes. It's okay for the brushes to kind of mash into the end plate. Perfectly fine so long as your switch triggers before that. So there we go. We have the PwnCNC proximity switches. These will be the yellow ones. The mechanical switches. Hold on just a second. So now we have two covers installed, and yeah, that should protect you. You've got a nice big acrylic window here that you can actually see down in there. I can see that I've got a couple of some of the threading that I pulled out of those holes sitting there, and the brushes should help push all that away, help protect your gears, your belts, and try to do it does a little bit of a job to try to brush that material away. It's not perfect, but it is something more than nothing, and it will definitely help if you're cutting a lot of aluminum, where you definitely don't want those bigger aluminum chips to jump into the belt and kind of damage the belts, especially since the belts kind of come up and around the gears and down again. Lots of mess there. We don't want to be ruining this expensive machine that we all love. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, leave it down in the comment section. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's see, all the other things. Yeah, I'll have a link in the description for purchasing these covers, as well as if you wanted to make these covers yourself. I will have all of that available, as well as a little maker's kit, which comes with all the screws and even the acrylic, if you want the acrylic, the brush material and all that stuff. It's all in a nice little maker's kit. If you want to make it super easy for yourself, just buy the kit. print out the plastic parts and assemble it all together, and you're good to go. Yeah, this is Daniel with PwnCNC, and remember, don't just own your CNC, dominate it.